Hello everyone, today we will continue to go over some content from the question bank. Next, let's look at question 3. Previously, we have already configured the IP and host name of our virtual machine, right? As well as the software repository. So for the third question, we will officially start dealing with specific services. First of all, question 3 is about HTTP service. Normally, we usually use port 80 as the standard port, right? But for this question, our HTTP service is running on a non-standard port, port 82. Now, what we need to do is configure this for us. The rules for Huang Xiaoqiang and so on. Of course, the main thing here is the Linux rule. As for the firewall here, generally, you don't need to configure it. But if the firewall is blocking it, then you also need to allow it through the firewall. So here, first of all, regarding this, the main point is actually a restriction on this service. Normally, for port 80, it's allowed, right? By default, there are rules to allow it through. However, in our case, the external service for this problem is running on port 82. That means in the service and port configuration, port 82 isn't included, so by default, it will be denied. As a result, when the service is running, other people won't be able to access our external service. So how exactly do we go about solving this problem? Well, first of all, we need to utilize a specific management command provided by our manager in order to add port 82 to our existing HEB port services. That is the essential first step in the process. The second thing we need to consider is if there's an issue with the context of a file in the site's root directory, we also need to either reassign it or refresh it. And finally, the most important point is enabling the service to start automatically on boot. Since our service is for HTTP, if you don't set it to start automatically when the system boots, then when verifying your results for the assignment, if your service hasn't started, then you'll get a 0 on this assignment. Because for this task, as long as it can be accessed, you get points. If it can't be accessed, you get none. So if you haven't set your service to start automatically on boot, your web page definitely won't be accessible, and you'll definitely get a 0. So everyone needs to pay special attention to this. You must set it to start automatically on boot. Absolutely must. Alright, next, let's take a closer look at the configuration on our Linux side. First, let's remotely connect to our environment. Okay, after we've connected to the environment remotely, the very first step is, in order to proceed, we need to use the specific SE Manager command that is required for this particular assignment. However, as it turns out, the tool is not actually installed on our system yet. So, the first thing we need to do is go ahead and install it. But keep in mind that the full name of this software package is quite long and complex, so if you are at all worried about remembering it incorrectly or making a typo, you can use the provide function to check it first. That is to say, you can verify exactly what the package is called before you start. What exactly is the command called, right? What is the specific name of the software package we need? You can simply use the yum provide command and then add the keyword manager to search for it in the repository. Once you have successfully found the correct name of our software package, you can then directly use the yum install command to get it installed on your machine. It really is quite long. It's right here, isn't it? Go ahead and copy it to install yourself. Of course, for this question, the steps given can also be used to verify your result for the second question. After installing it, keep in mind that this environment might not have it installed by default, so make sure you complete this step. Otherwise, you might spend a long time typing only to find out, hey, the command doesn't exist. So make sure to do this step first. Get this step done first. Then once you're in, you can use the commander command to manage what? To manage the status of our ports. First, we can use the port command with the L option to check the current status of ports in our environment. This is the current port status. What exactly does it look like? Right now we have 80 and 81, correct? We know that 82 isn't there yet, right? So here we'll first use a command to add port 82. Now you'll want to add it. Just use the A command to add it to our current Shapey port list. Our port is 82, right? So what comes next? Next, what must you remember? If you want to verify, you must remember to start the service and perform the operation. But it's best to do this step in advance so you don't forget it later. Otherwise, it's basically the same as not doing it at all. You must remember to do this for this question. You must remember to do this step, this one here. Actually, starting the service itself doesn't really matter. What's actually the most important thing? Enabling auto start on boot. So actually, it's fine if you don't do it. It's really not a big deal if you skip it. At this point, we can use a command to access what? To access our web page. If you access the page directly here, what will happen? It will return our source code. Accessing it directly will return the source code. What is the original source code? The source code is just like this. Since there's a lot of content, we won't scroll up. As for the specific files inside, there are actually a few. There are several files, namely, here we have files 1, 2, and 3. Yes, files 1, 2, and 3. As for accessing them, normally files 2 and 3 don't have any issues. There's no hot link protection problem, but there is a bit of an issue with file 1, specifically the style file. If you try to access it and get a 402 or 403 error, especially a 403 error, in this case, what do we need to do? We need to separately reset the settings for our file 1. There's a bit of an issue with the context of slings here. Its contextual relationship has a problem. The context is inconsistent with the other two files. So if we modify the context for file 1 here, there won't be any more issues. The way to modify it is still by using the manager command. We modify the context of our file. And as for the path, it's the VR directory. Yes, the VR directory. Here, we'll make some specific modifications to the context of our first individual file separately. Then, by using the restore command, we can make the context successfully take effect once more, and refresh it completely. At this point, if we access file 1 again, there won't be any problem. So, the final result is that you can normally access our source code, and all the files under our HTML directory can also be accessed. That's all you need. The specifics here depend on your actual situation. One more thing, if the firewall is blocking port 82, remember to allow it as well. Changing the port is all done here, right? The command is actually quite simple. You just do it directly through /cmd. Because for this problem, what we're mainly testing is observation skills, specifically regarding our SE Linux content. Actually, it's not about testing the firewall, but if the firewall is blocking it and you don't allow it, of course it won't work. So here, everyone needs to pay attention, use firework 3md, then just now prevent, and then -add to add our port. How much? 82, right? Equals 82-TCP, which means adding port 82 to our configuration. Only under the permission policy can it access our page. That's one of our policies. The final result, this is our final outcome. It's just that it's accessible. Actually, we don't need to show this part because the fact that it's accessible means that port 82 is not being blocked or protected. If you had let it go. If you had released it. Well, actually, it doesn't really matter. It's fine. Generally speaking, if you can't access port 82 after you finish setting up the context, after you finish the nginx context, if you still can't access it, then it's mainly because these two areas both play a role in blocking access to this service. So, if you encounter this situation, just go ahead and do this step first. After you finish the configuration, if you still can't access it, then look into the firewall settings. If you can access it directly, then it has nothing to do with the firewall, because this question is mainly about something else, but you still need to check the firewall just in case. So that's the content for our third question. In the end, as long as you can access our page and access our files, that's enough. That's our third question. Alright, in the future, we'll continue to bring you explanations for other questions. If you're interested, feel free to discuss in the comments below. If you need access to the question bank, you can also message me directly. Okay, that's the main content for today. See you next time, bye-bye.